Hey, welcome back, everybody. We're excited to have Liz and Selina with us of Project Reo Collective. It's a community group, but it also is a physical coffee location, and they are really passionate about giving back to their community, doing a lot of community events. We're excited to have them on as interviewees and get their story of how they built their business, get advice for you guys, and we'll let them go through their story, give some advice, and hear about any struggles that they might have and how you can avoid some of that. So thank you guys for being with us today and sitting down with us and taking the time. So to start, could you just run through both of your, so Project Reo is made up of you two, but also another probably 8 people, different families. And so can you give us background about you guys and how you got involved in Project Reo, how you grew up, how you maybe you grew up in the community, stuff like that. Just kind of walk us through your history and your background.
Well, so like you said, Project Reo Project Reo Collective is made up of 5 families. But to understand the background of Project Reo Collective, you have to go back to what was the catalyst of the movement of Project Reo. So what had happened was in 2016, my husband, who's a high school teacher, he works at High Tech High. He had his students do a project of doing a mural in a community and get community feedback, and they just wanted to make an impact of just create a mural that represents the community. And so what they did is they went into the neighborhood and started talking to a lot of the families in the neighborhood and just getting feedback of, what kind of a mural they would like to see in their neighborhood. And so they spent a whole weekend where they came out and did this mural. And it's the mural that's that's on the Lapa Lapa wall. So the kids came out, they had invited people, whoever was coming by, like, hey, you guys want to paint? And so it was really cool because that whole weekend people, would walk by, come with their kids and start helping out with this project. And from there, we started meeting and creating relationships with other families. And the 99-cent store owner had contacted my husband because his wall would get tagged up all the time. Yeah. And so if a business or anything gets tagged up, it's the business's responsibility to paint it. And if they don't, they get fined. And so that's why the owner was contacting my husband. So my husband was like, all right, well, let's do another mural,
Yeah.
Not through the school, but just let's just, let's do it. So we contacted friends in the neighborhood and people who came out for the first one, and we were like, let's do it. Let's do this mural. And so we did it. And from there, 4 families got together and we sat down in one of the houses, and we were like, there's a movement, like there's something going, like something's going on, like let's keep it going. And so we named it Project Reo because Reo Drive this is our little strip mall here. Yeah. And so for us, it's definitely been revitalized, but even just 3 years ago, it was really, it was pretty run down, and there wasn't very many businesses here. There was a lot of vacant spaces, and so we're like, let's do cleanups, let's do movie nights, and so we started with that. And the holidays started coming around, and so we were like, let's do a trunk or treat, let's get some cars together and let's pass out candy, because one of the problems in Paradise Hills is that if you go through the neighborhoods, there's no sidewalks in a lot of the neighborhoods. So a lot of families tend to go outside of Paradise Hills to go trick or treating with their kids. So we're like, well, let's use the strip, let's put cars out on the street, and let's, I don't know if you know the concept of trunk or treat, but that's where people decorate the backs of their cars or trunks and, just kind of, you go around and pass out candy. And so, we thought it was going to be like this little thing, nothing big. And then all of a sudden, like,
it blew up. There was like thousands of people here.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it was a lot of people. And so then, Christmas is coming around. And so we're like, okay, let's do a holiday one, right? Yeah. So we named it Holiday in the Hills. And we actually had a lowrider parade come down. Awesome. And so it's been beautiful. It's been awesome to see how the community's responded to it and wanting to support and what we do sometimes too is for cleanups, we'll do a call out, like, hey, we need, if anybody wants to, donate water or fruit or whatever, and people come out and they donate, and so none of this has ever been, let's get big grants or anything. It's always been community based.
Yeah.
But through all the work that we've been doing, and as we would talk to people in the community, they would always say, like, man, like, I wish there was a place that we can hang out and have a cup of coffee, or like do my homework or whatever, because other than Los Tapatios or Mike's Pizza, we didn't have any other place on this strip. And so we were just like, well, let's start a coffee shop.
Yeah.
My husband and I know Milo and Caro from Por Vida, and so they basically became our mentors on this whole project of creating a coffee shop for our community. So we sat with 4 of the other families that were part of the core group of Project Reo, and we're like, who's down to invest? Let's do it, And we just jumped in there. We all invested our own money. Couldn't get a loan. That wasn't going to happen. None of us had any real experience or anything like that. So we made it work. And I think everybody in the families, we all have our strengths, and we all had something that we could give to create it. And so it somehow just worked out. And so
that's awesome. Can you talk a little bit about kind of, I guess, growing up? Was it somebody in your family who was an entrepreneur? Was it just like you seeing, growing up in a community maybe similar to this and seeing kind of the problems that you like had the passion to organize these community events? Like what in your background like has accumulated to this, right?
Well, I think me personally, I grew up in a very poor neighborhood about 10 minutes away from here. Like nothing like this would ever happen. And so my mom still lives there till this day, and still nothing happens there. So I think my big thing was like, I don't want my kids to grow up like that. I want better for them. And so that's where it drives me. Like I want, my kids to grow up knowing that it doesn't have to be like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like, just like you, I went to school with like the rich white kids and it doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah.
We can all have that too.
Yeah. So you saw it, right?
I saw it.
Like
yeah.
for me, like I saw, okay, these rich white people, like they can go wherever, feel safe wherever, and have these events that are put on.
Yeah.
And you kind of saw how it was like structured, right? So you saw that, and you're like, why can't we
have that?
Exactly.
So that's awesome. That's cool that drives you. And I guess, how did you get involved with Selina and all that? Kind of, how did that come together for you?
Yeah. Well, like she said, we all live in this neighborhood. Our kids played baseball together, and it's funny how she says like the mural thing, like we passed by and we're like, man, like that's awesome. So, everybody joined in and we started having conversations, going to each other's houses, and that's basically how it started.
Yeah.
Just creating the relationships, so.
Yeah, so it wasn't like, because a lot of people will think, you have to have a bunch of money or you have to have a good business background. So they make excuses, right? Like I can't afford it. I don't know how to do accounting. I don't know how to do marketing. So that didn't seem like that was the route for you guys. It seemed pretty smooth with meeting the people, or.
I mean, I think it's like I was saying though. I think everybody, especially for this project, right? This coffee shop. It's all of us within the families have strengths, and I think that's what has made it work is that all of us are able to bring something to the table and say like, one of us is really good with accounting stuff, so that's all they focus on, and some of us are, they're really good with, with the employees, so that's what they do, they just work with just the employees, and we all respect that, and so it works, and and I think it goes back to of just the collaboration, and having just that being the driving force of it. And all of us work. We all have day jobs. We all have kids. Kids have after school programs and after school activities. And so every day we're always hustling with stuff. But at the end of the day, this is our baby, and we want to take care of it, and we see it thriving. And when we get people who come in on a daily basis to support us, that all the more
makes
reason,
it worth it.
It's all worth, I guess, that sacrifice. And
so that was my next question. Like, what keeps you, I guess, like working, you're both mothers. And,
Yeah.
you're both, like you said, you have other stuff that you're responsible for.
Yeah.
And how do you keep motivated, when you're like super tired and you're like, dang, like, I have all this stuff on my agenda for today. What keeps you going? Is most of that the community and like
It's the community, it's the kids, right? It's our kids to be able to have, and also too, I feel like to be an example for more people, right?
Exactly.
And to say like I'm not different from you, but the reason why this is happening is because I'm going out of my comfort zone to create something that I'm really proud of.
Yeah.
So that's another part of it too, is being proud of what you're doing and doing it for the right reasons. And again, like I want to be that example for my kids. I hope that they grow up and feel like that's what they want to do. And we definitely, when we have cleanups or even when we're in the shop, we have our kids come in and go sweep the floor. But I mean, it's important for us, because
those values
you
want to create, right?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's 10 of us. We're all different. We all have our different, styles, but we have the same ideals. Like we want it to work. We want better for this community, and that's a lot. That's what makes it work too. That's the driving force.
Like butt heads on anything?
Absolutely,
No?
absolutely. There's 10 of us.
I know, right? Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, why are we doing this?
Yeah,
right. So
it all comes back to it's worth it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It all comes back to that.
Yeah. Well, because like a lot of people will try to build a team, right? And they kind of just like maybe post something online and they're like, hey, I'm doing this, are you willing to come and help me? Rather than building kind of from the ground up where you're really talking about your mission, talking about why you're doing this, and then having people seek you out. Like, dang, I really resonate with this mission. Let's do this.
Absolutely.
So does that help when you have like maybe some discrepancies in like thought processes and strategies?
Well, I think it's good to see different ways of doing things, right? And coming together and, okay, what's going to work for us as a group? What's going to work for us? And again, we're going to have our disagreements or our frustrations, but then, you got to talk about it. You got to make it work, right? Yeah. So what do we, as personally for ourselves, what do we have to change for the better of the group, and it's just communication. It comes down to communication.
So growing up the way that you guys did, was there any point that you felt a little nervous about jumping into something like this? Maybe like, oh, it might not work out. Like, did those thoughts ever occur to you? And did you ever think of like, oh shoot, maybe I'm not focused on the right thing right now? Especially as you have kids, like I don't know if you're like scared or fearful initially or not.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I was like, I just wanted to make sure that it was going to work, and we still do, and I think that's another force, like, oh, okay, we can't fail. Like, I don't want it to fail. Like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So
there's always going to be fear, you know, like that's natural, but again, if you have a good team, you could depend on each other. Like you got to believe in it.
I love how you say confidently. I mean, like a lot of people that I talk to are entrepreneurs are, just pulling their hairs out, and
it is
really pretty calm and
I mean, we are. I mean, like, I'm in an interview right now, and I'm like,
But I think it's because there's so many of us that we all have each other's back. Like we can, we can say, oh, this, and then here comes one of the owners with his words of wisdom. That's like, okay, you know what I mean? Yeah. So
that's awesome. I mean, for me, it's always, I don't ever want to go back. So like what you're saying, you kind of push through. You're like, this isn't going to fail. This isn't going to fail.
Yep.
And a lot of people will quit at the first sign of adversity. Did like growing up the way you did, does that help you when you face some adversity?
I know for myself, like I have with my family background, my parents both came from, they did migrant work, and so they would go to different states, and whatever was the time to pick, that's what they did. And so my parents were first generation Mexican Americans, and so for them, especially like for my dad, it was like, you have to get an education, you can't end up here. And so, and for my mom, she's just the type of person like, I'm not going to end up here. So she, both my parents went to college, and so for us, it was like, you need to go to college, And so for me, And I think more, especially because for my mom and knowing her personality, it's like you never let nobody tell you can't do something. So on a personal level, I'm like, don't tell me I can't do something, because I'm going to do it then. It's going to be all the more reason to do it, because I want to prove you wrong. You know what I mean? So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like similarly, like my mom, you know, she had me folding towels and like you know, sweeping up her space in the hair salon, and so like she was always like education, and I think a lot of people like that's what you're kind of fed, right? So like education is one thing, but like for me, it was I was fortunate that my mom was never like, you have to get a job, like, because I know a lot of people will, like, their parents will be like, you have to get a job, you have to help us pay rent, or you know, pay for this.
That's me right there.
And it's different for everybody, right? But you know, and it comes down to personality too, though. You know, what kind of personality are you? You know, again, like, you know, if you're like, don't tell us no, you know, like, I mean, I know that with you too, like, it's just that feeling of like, no, like, I'm going to prove you wrong, you know, like, I'm going to do it, you know, and
So you have the same.
Yeah, and I like, if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Yeah. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Whatever it costs, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. We don't mess around.
We don't.
No, it's good, you know, as entrepreneurs and business owners, you have to, right?
Yeah.
Because nobody else is, I mean, you have a team, luckily, but for you showing up, that's on you, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That's cool. So back to the business, and I know you talked about, I don't know if you mentioned it here, but you talked about getting a mentor from another coffee shop in a different area. And how did you make that connection? How did you seek that person out? Did they seek you out? And why did you seek that specific person out?
So my husband and I, we've been really involved in the art scene for many years. And so we did a lot of stuff in Logan, and well, mainly, a lot of stuff in Logan. And so when we would do art shows or events, we met Milo. And so when Milo created his coffee shop, and then when we decided to jump into this project, like right away, you know, with conversations with him and his partner Caro, it was like, what do we have to do? You know, and they opened up their business to us of like, okay, like, you know, come in the shop, we'll have our baristas just show you how to make, you know, how to pull the shot, you know, and so that was a personal relationship, you know, and you know, they just having that relationship with them, and them being so just really just sharing their knowledge with us.
They were super cool about showing us everything, and just wanting to help. And I mean, that's so rare, and it was really nice and awesome of them to do that.
Well, a lot of the times people will be hesitant to reach out, right, for help. They won't raise their hand. They want to do everything themselves. Was that ever a thought? I mean, you obviously had more people around to say, like, we do need some help or some mentorship. But was that ever like some thought that you had where like, no, I'm going to do this myself? Or
no, because I think that's what we, again, with Project Reo and everything, like, that's what has made everything work, is that you ask for help, you know, because I don't have knowledge on it, so I'm not gonna do you know, give you like a half-assed, you know, but I'm gonna, you know, I want to learn, right? And so it's no, you always ask for help, and you know, people want to help, and you have to, you know, we got to be okay with that. I don't know, I don't think I think it's good to be like that and not have this sense of like, like, I'll just figure it out, because then I think you kind of set yourself up for failure. So
no, for sure. No, and I mean, you hit on the head. Like you set yourself up for failure. You don't ask for help. You don't. Building a team is important, because they will keep you on check, or you know, give you feedback where like you might be slacking, or you know, something like that. So it's important to do that. Was there ever like, what hiccups have you ran into being business owners? Like, was there anything in particular? Like, was it hard to get this, like a lease on this place, or buying this place? I'm not sure what you did for this, but was there ever like anything that you ran into that that might have like slowed down your process?
Well, I think getting the equipment, getting the space wasn't a hard thing. Like I said, like when we were even just looking on the strip, I mean, there was so many open spaces that wasn't even like an issue. I would say one of the major hiccups that we've experienced was when we needed to actually get a new espresso machine, because we bought it off of a person, like the whole setup off of a person who had been, it had been used. And we already, when we had purchased it, was like, this is just temporary. We want to get new equipment eventually. And then one day we get the call from the employees, and they're like,
it's dead.
It's dead. So we had, we were like, okay, what do we got to do? So, one of our other partners, he's calling up, some of his connections, like, okay, like we need a new machine, and we got a new machine in, but how much that machine was?
It was
like
pricey. It was like $5,000.
I think $5,000, and so
you had to close for a little bit, or
like maybe like a half a day.
I think
like
half a day.
Yeah. But okay, so how do you come up with $5,000, right? I mean, again, we've already put into major investments family-wise. We don't have $5,000 to just be like knock out,
Yeah.
So luckily enough, my husband's parents were like, we can, loan you guys the money to at least, to stabilize the situation, and then we'll pay them back. And because we tried with the banks, and we hadn't even been open that long to even have any sort of credit, so that wasn't going to happen. So really, again, asking for help, and people willing and believing in what we do, actually like stepping and being like, here, I trust you guys, like go for it, and that's really been a blessing.
It sounds like you used all your resources, right?
Yep.
You went to the bank,
Yep.
like you tried everybody in your
Yeah.
circle, and then lo and behold, somebody actually
Yep.
reached out their hand and
Exactly.
helped you out.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will. I remember talking to somebody. They were saying how they started their business. They did maybe 10 cold calls, and everybody said no, and then he stopped. And I was like, well, like you didn't really.
You didn't really try,
Try enough.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to keep knocking on doors, or asking for help, asking around, because you never know who is going to say yes, or going to give you that help. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So is when you think about where you want to be with the coffee shop, in maybe 3 years, 5 years, what does that look like? Is it more stores? Is it more events? Is it, what does that look like for both of you?
Well, we're definitely going to expand this coming year. So I see the whole street being revitalized. Like in 3 years, it's going to be like easy, like all the hard work is going to pay off. It's going to run itself. We're just going to show up to our events. That's what I see as happening. Because, we all do work at the shop still, because,
That's important for us to be at the shop.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and we're seeing it, like now, we had baby cakes come in here now, they're on our strip. We're seeing, we have a dance studio here now, and all that stuff was in here again like 3 years ago, right?
Everything was empty, and now like there isn't anything.
So it's happening, and again, we're going to expand, and so just keep fostering all of this and making it. Again, just having it for the community to be able to utilize and come into the space and, just do more events.
Yeah. So I want to kind of go back to like the marketing aspect of things. Did you guys ever, like how did you guys market? Like you got like thousands of people at your, trunk or treat. Like what did that, was it more, you already know all these people because you're involved in the community? Was it passing out flyers? Like what did that look like?
Pretty much everything you just said. But I feel like like in this community, Paradise Hills, everybody knows everybody, and everybody wants to help. So a lot of help was from the community blowing up, flyers on their social media and their people seeing it, and it's just like a chain reaction. So a lot of that has to do with that.
And people are proud, right? I mean, people are proud of this neighborhood, and there's generations that are part of this neighborhood, and so when you're again, you see these events like in Logan or like North Park or whatever, right? Like, why can't we have those, right? So we're going to make it happen. We're going to do it, and so I think that's been a driving force too of like, we can have this too, and somebody's got to do it. Like, it's going to be us then, right? So
well, a lot of people won't do the legwork beforehand.
I mean, it takes a lot from our families, right? Like, I mean, there's times where we, we're bringing our kids and, okay, go play over there, like that's time away from them, and so, or, like, gotta leave them with other families so we can set up for the trunk or treat or whatever, so our families take a lot, it's a sacrifice for our families too, and So, you know, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And we don't get paid for it. You know, we're not getting paid for it, but to be able to sit back and see these events happening, you know, it's so gratifying too, to be like, damn, like we did that, you know, like we made that happen. I don't know how it happened, but it happened, you know? And so it's amazing to be able to sit back and to also get the feedback from people in the community, you know, like people come up to us and they're like so grateful for everything that we're doing. And that's the reward I feel from it, of like being able to just see people acknowledge it, and you know, it just makes you feel good, you know. So
well, similar to like your point that you made before about like you want your kid to live a different life, or, you know, have more, and this stuff wasn't being done, you know, when you guys were growing up, or you know, the places that you grew up in, and that makes a difference, right? Like you have like a kind of a safe space, or like a place where you have people who are like you, and, you know, who you can talk to and relate to, and really like just chop it up with, and maybe get advice and, you know, some motivation and things like that. So I think that's really cool, with all the events that you have going on. So what is like one piece of advice you would give aspiring entrepreneurs, if they were just looking to start out, you know, any business, maybe they wanted to start a restaurant or a coffee shop? What is that one piece of advice that you would give them?
I would say use all the resources you can and ask for help, and don't give up, because it's going to pay off in the end. Just be patient.
I think patience, I think that's a big part of it, right? Because, you know, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs with it all, but also network, like get to know people, you know, and get to know people in wherever you're going to start your business. Like know that community too, though. You can't show up into a community and expect them to support you if they don't, you know. You need to create that relationship, because that also is such an important part of it. And I think that's why we have been successful, is because we have a good relationship with our community.
We do. You
know, we have people who reach out to us, you know, for advice, or, you know, I mean, we have people from the city now contacting us for, you know, because they see what we're doing, you know, and so it's, you know, it pays off. So.
Oh yeah, and I think those are, people don't give it enough time sometimes.
Right?
Like people want
instant,
fast results.
And it's not that. It's never going to be that.
No.
Right? But because a lot of people always in the news, you always hear about like, oh, this place got bought for this, or you know, and that's all you hear about. But you don't hear about all the grind that that people went through to get to that point, right?
Exactly.
And so, so going back, I guess, to the art and all of that, because I want to talk about the art, because it seems like a really it's a consistent theme at all most of the places that we've been to, especially for Latino, Latina, you know, business owners. It's always art, or like you know, something resonates with us about art. Can you talk about how you've incorporated that art in Project Reo, and how that continues to be kind of a revolving theme for you guys?
So for the space, or just in the community, or?
Yeah, in the space and in the community. I mean, you talked about, you know, drawing a mural right behind this building. And what that means to be able to express yourself through art, and have people kind of look at the art and be like, dang, like I really, you know, I resonate with this, right? Like this is something that I know.
Well, you know, like with the murals, like I had said before, you know, that I think for this community, they're really, really special, because when they were created, we were asking people in the community to come out and participate. You know, like I said, like people were walking by and it was like, hey, come and help us paint, you know, and for some people, they would have never had the opportunity to participate in a mural, you know, so that you know, for a lot of people in the neighborhood, that's really important. Like, it's not a mural that somebody came in and painted. It's a mural that was created by people in the community, and that the community got to do. So, and then with the space, with the artwork that's inside, we have every month, on the first Saturday of the month, we have an art show. We invite artists that we know, or people that reach out to us that would like to have an art show. We have community art shows, and it's important, right? Because it gives everybody, you know, every first Saturday out of the month from 4 to 7, you know, come out, get a coffee, come meet the artist, and hang out with your neighborhood, you know. And, you know, again, with like our mural here too, you know, Liz and I collaborated on that. We created that, you know, and so it's I don't know, it's part of the revitalization of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could see it too, you know, if you look at some of the other buildings, you know, like some of them don't have that, and you could see the difference, you know.
Yeah, like it's unique, right? Like it's not like Starbucks coming in and being like
exactly,
you know, just cookie cutter.
Yeah,
right?
It's not a generic,
It's definitely
like,
unique.
Yeah.
No, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, that's all the questions I had for you guys.
Nice.
I really, you know, it's inspiring to hear you as women of color being entrepreneurs and figuring out for your kids and for yourselves to be passionate and look at something that you're really proud of. So I really appreciate you guys sharing your thoughts and your story. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.